Welcome, everybody, back to another episode here on the Special Educator Series. I just want to get through this so you can see our new potential logo here for the Special Educator. I think it's a little bit more catchy and friendly here. Before we get started, this newest episode is going to be Guidance and Service Through Faith. Today is Wednesday, the 5th of March in 2025. And this is officially the start of the Lenten season for us, our Christians, especially Catholics. And today is actually Ash Wednesday. So I'm going to be doing a series, if you will, on faith-related postings. Just a couple of them. I'm not going to go crazy with this. Let me get over here. Welcome, everybody. Before we get started, please, I'm going to ask you to smash the like button, do some comments, email us, follow, subscribe, share, anything you can do to help us out. I'd really appreciate it. So let me turn the music off here so that we can get this show on the road. As you may have seen in some of my previous postings, I had a largely parochial education. I have studied all the religions. Actually, I have a degree, a bachelor's degree in religion as well as geology. And I went to an all-male Catholic prep school and a Lutheran coeducational grade school starting in the 4th grade. So my personal experience with religious education is very long-standing. It's a part of my life. It's core to what I do. And I try and live, although I'm not perfect, believe me, for those of you who know me, I'm far from perfect. But I try best as I can to live a moral life through my Christian perspective. Be aware, however, my education takes me far beyond Christianity. As a group, I'm going to be dealing with postings not just on religion, but also philosophy and psychology will come into this. But today, because it is Lent and it's the start of, today is Ash Wednesday, it's the start of the Lenten season, I want to bring up a couple of readings that I, as a lector in the Catholic Church that I attend this past Sunday, had a couple of readings. The first reading and the gospel reading I think are intermingled, and I want to bring them up with you today. Just go through them briefly. I'll read them to you and I'll show them. Let me get these going here so you can see. So whenever we do biblical readings, what you generally have will be 3 readings during a Mass. There will be one from the Old Testament. There'll be one from the New Testament. And there's also going to be a gospel reading. Now, I'm going to skip the second reading because it's not quite as tied into these, but I'm going to read through this. The Old Testament reading, which for the whole Lenten season is now going to be on my banner. Hold on here. My little disclaimer notice there in red is the reading. It is from the book of Sirach, chapter 27, verses 4 through 7. All of this has to do with a lot of the common cliches that we have, and I'll get to those in a moment. Let's just read through these. So, the Old Testament reading says, "When a sieve is shaken, the husks appear. So do one's faults when one speaks. As the test of what the potter molds is in the furnace, so in tribulation is the test of the just. The fruit of a tree shows the care it has had. So too does one's speech disclose the bent of one's mind. Praise no one before he speaks, for it is then the people are tested." Fairly simple. I think a lot of common sense is in there. I know it's a biblical passage. For those of you that are not spiritual or religious, this is still just very good advice for anybody, especially today, with so much people just having bias and speaking from all different sides of the social, political spectrums here. Let's get now to where I think the real lesson here is. And the gospel is always something that, at least in the Christian community, is what is spoken only by the minister or the priest, and then is followed by a sermon, uh, or if you want, a little lesson or a lecture. So the gospel reading is from the book of Luke, chapter 6, verses 39 through 45. And it reads as follows. Read along with me. Jesus told his disciples a parable. Can a blind person guide a blind person? Will not both fall into a pit? No disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own? How can you say to your brother, Brother, let me remove that splinter in your eye, when you do not even notice the wooden beam in your own eye? You hypocrite. Remove the wooden beam from your eye first. Then you'll see clearly to remove the splinter in your brother's eye. A good tree does not bear rotten fruit, nor does a rotten tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. For people do not pick figs from thorn bushes, nor do they gather grapes from brambles. A good person out of the store of goodness in his heart produces good, but an evil person out of a store of evil produces evil. For from the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. So this past Sunday, of course, I was a lector, and I did those. I did the first reading, and then there was a second reading. But the gospel lesson, or the story, I should say, that the priest told to us was something from his childhood. He'd explained that as a young boy living in France, his uncles were known to have, let's just say, foul language. They would spout expletives quite frequently. And the story was that at one point, when the family was gathered in his house and the uncles were there, one of the uncles in particular got in a very heated discussion, and the foul language that he was using became so invasive and so bad that the priest's father told his uncle, "You will stop using such language in this household, or you will no longer be welcome in this household." The scene that unfolded was so profound that, again, our priest, as a child, was impressed, was affected by what his father had done. So much so that the point of his story was for the father to the son to be an example, to be a beacon of morality and goodness. And it stuck with him so much so that it became part of his sermon this past Sunday. So, what I am trying to do as part of the Special Educator series is somewhat tied into this. Let's go with a few cliches. Some come to mind. Don't point your finger at somebody else, because there's always three pointing back at you. That's a good one. Another one, take a good look in the mirror. Examine yourself. And then as a musician, I got to bring in a song, a great blues song by Eric Clapton. Before you accuse me, take a look at yourself. I try to keep things out of the political spectrum as much as I can, but things of late globally not just here in the United States or any other particular country, it has become evident, and it should be obvious to most of you out there that have an open, objective, and maybe reasonable sense of logic, that a lot of people are hypocrites. We so easily tell people what they should do or what they should think or how they should act or even how they should feel without taking a look at ourselves first before we engage with them. So I'm going to keep this relatively short. What I'm hoping for those of you out there, be you religious or not, doesn't matter. This also applies to secular reasoning and logic and psychology. I encourage all of you to self-reflect, be a little introspective, look at some of your own faults before you go out accusing other people or putting other people down or giving advice. Even if you have good intentions, use your own life, your own faults as a filter when you examine other people's lives and other people's faults. I'm going to leave it there for right now because I'm not here to lecture or berate you or browbeat you with religious justification. That's not what this is about. Personally, I don't like it when other people, under the guise of some religious morality, try and put you in a box. I certainly don't want to do that to anybody else as well. So this is just a common sense kind of approach. Back off on the religious context of it and just think about it in your daily lives. So, for those of you that are religiously guided, welcome to Lent. Hope your Ash Wednesday kicks things off with a good start to the season. And because Lent is about self-reflection and giving something up through fasting and almsgiving and things like that, I want to make sure all of you are safe and sound. Again, I want you to like, follow, share, comment, subscribe, whatever you can do to help us out here at the Special Educator. I really, really hope that this that I'm doing reaches out to a number of you and you can help spread the news. Thank you very much. I'm Tom Hankins, instructor, tutor, consultant, and musician. And if you want to find us anywhere, whatever platform you're watching on now, there are plenty of others: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, and Rumble. Follow us anywhere you can, anywhere you prefer. I'll be talking to you soon. Take care.